Welcome to July's edition of 4 and 4. My name is Kathy Halgren, Director of South St. Paul Public Library, and this month's 4 titles feature 4 American cities: Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, Columbus, Ohio, and Brownsburg, Virginia, in honor of our Independence Day. If we're talking about the U.S., we have to mention Washington, D.C. And this book, The 500 by Matthew Quirk, will tell you more than you ever wanted to know about politics and power. Mike Ford has been made a senior associate at the Davies Group, a consulting firm that digs up dirt on legislators and holds it over them to push policy into law. As the head of Davies states, we make the best of their bad behavior. And they'll stop at nothing. It all comes down to mice: money, ideology, compromise, coercion, and ego. This is what the Davies Group tries to figure out about every one of its marks, and this is why Mike was recruited. His past is a little murky at best, and his father, a master con man, is in the slammer. The problem is, Mike's cleaned up his act and desperately wants to live a decent life, but the sweet song of success is calling. Who will pull the last con? This is a very entertaining, fast-paced romp through the shenanigans of D.C. as Mike tries to fit in with the 500, the most powerful people in the U.S., and ends up stuck in a locker room overnight, seduced by the daughter of a man who delights in eating human hearts, and so much more. Enjoy. While Alaskan politics don't really float my boat, Alaskan writers certainly do, and Alexis M. Smith's Glaciers is a poignant debut novel that promises future great things from this author. In Glaciers, Isabel has developed a love for vintage articles, her adopted children, ever since her father took her junking when she was 4. He taught her that it doesn't matter how much it costs or whether anyone else wants it. If you love it, you will treasure it. Her very first treasures were a few old photographs, and a current treasure, a postcard of Amsterdam, frames and mirrors the entire novel as Isabel falls in love with someone she can never have. Most of the novel takes place in Portland, Oregon, where Isabel works in the basement of a library tending to damaged books, and Spoke, a former soldier who works in tech support. It's an exquisite look at longing and loss, written in lyrical prose, and I absolutely love the ending. Any author that can make me love quiet misery this much is one talented woman. In Christopher Coake's You Came Back, Mark feels like he's finally moving on after the death of his 7-year-old son Brendan and subsequent divorce from Chloe. That is, until Connie Pelham enters his life and insists on talking to him. She has bought his former house in Ohio, where Brendan fell down the stairs to his death, and now her son insists that he's seeing and hearing Brendan's ghost, and he's calling for his father. If you don't generally read ghost stories, not to worry. This is not your typical tale of demons and poltergeists, but rather a story that delves into the surrounding emotions of a parent in utter despair over the loss of a child. Before you think this sounds like a huge downer, there's also a hopeful side to the story, because while Mark had lost both his son and his wife in the past, he may just have a chance at making a new life with Chloe, who he's never stopped loving and who is intrigued by the possibility of ghosts communicating with the living. Things are a bit complicated, of course, because he's just proposed to his girlfriend Allison, but that was before all the craziness occurred with Connie and her haunted house story. Mark, who is not religious in the least, convinces himself that there is no such thing as a ghost, but his curiosity and longing for connection with his son gets the better of him, and one night he ends up on the steps of his former home. And I'm not going to tell you what happens next. You have to read it to find out. A quintessential American trait is wanting a place to call your own, somewhere where you feel at ease and can recharge for the following day's mayhem. Robert Goolrick's Heading Out to Wonderful explores this need to set down roots after years of wandering in the form of Charlie Beale, a man near 40 who is searching for his little piece of heaven in Brownsburg, Virginia. It's 1948, and soon Charlie has won over this small town with his charm as he partners with the local butcher, but you can't help but think there's something in his past he's running from. We know he came into town with a suitcase full of money, and once in Brownsburg, he decides to believe in the goodness of men, including himself. And then he catches the eye of Sylvan Glass, the young wife of the town's wealthiest man, and he finds he just might be ready to give up his solitary existence. but at what cost in this small town where propriety and conformity are practically cemented into Main Street's pavement? It's a beautifully written novel. That's all for this edition of 4 and 4. I've decided to review new titles every other month, so I'll see you in September with 4 more titles in 4 minutes.